Interesting. Yesterday, Tosas differentiated based on the Gemara between shtar raya and shtar matona. A document which is purely for the sake of proof, like a loan document. If the lender has the document, the borrower writes the document, so if it's in possession of the lender, that clearly says that the lender lent money to the borrower. And that's why he has the document to prove. But what created the obligation? The transfer of money. The transfer of money created the obligation. But if you give a gift, you gift a piece of property, so there's nothing being given by the acquirer of the property. So how does the property transfer from the gifter to the one who receives it? He writes the deed. So over there, the deed has to be empowered with the ability, infused with the ability to bring about that transfer. So either you have Eidi Mesira or you have Eidi Chasima, as we said. Okay? I want to bring out another point. Now, we hold La Halacha that a milval peh, an documented loan, collects from where? You only collect from B'nai Chorim. One does not collect from lien properties. If the borrower sold off property, if there was a lien, so the original lender could go after that property, he has lien on the property. But what about it was a milva peh? What happened if it was an undocumented loan? There's no lien. Even if you hold shibud d'oraisa, on a Torah level, there is a shibud, there is a lien. But the Chachomim, for the sake to protect the buyers of the property, since they were unaware that there's a lien, therefore we say you cannot collect from that property. Okay? So good. So now that they said you cannot collect from the property unless it's documented. So what does the document do? What created the lien? Is it the document that created the lien? Or is it what? Or is the loan created the lien? Except he said when you give money and it's documented, we leave the lien in place. What do we say? No. Every loan, the lien is, there is no lien. The Chacham said there's no lien. When you write a document, the document itself creates the lien. Understand? Did they leave it in place? They said, when you lend money, there's a lien, except we'll only allow you to collect that lien if the buyers are aware, because the buyers are aware that there's a lien. But if it's undocumented, there's no way they can know. Therefore, to protect the buyer, we say you cannot collect the lien. But if it's documented, the buyer is aware, because when you write the document, word goes out that the land is lien. So then we allow the buyer, we allow the person to collect from that property. So simply you would learn what created the lien, even when you have a document. It's the original loan. Right? Except it's not simple. There's an argument in the Gemara Gitten. Let's say a person goes, Reuven comes as a lender, says to Shimon, I lent you money and this is the document. And the document hasn't been substantiated. Has not been substantiated. So it's a question, it could be a forgery. Correct? And the borrower says, it's true, I did borrow from you, but I paid. He says, Barati, I paid. Normally, a borrower is permitted, is believed to say, I paid. Right? But when you have a document, it's not so simple. If you paid, so why am I in possession of the document? The lender, right? The borrower, the document should be returned to the borrower, right? But let's understand now. Before the borrower admitted that he borrowed, when he says I paid means I borrowed and I paid. Before he admitted that he borrowed, what was the value of the document? It was uncertified. It wasn't substantious. It's a piece of paper. So there's an argument. When you acknowledge the document, its validity, do you have to substantiate it, or does it not have to be substantiated? It's an argument. Right? According to one opinion is, the moment you acknowledge the document to be a valid document, it's considered a substantiated document, the lender borrows. The lender collects. The other one says no, even if you admit that you borrowed, it only becomes a document, a lien, a loan which is documented if you substantiate that document. So therefore, until you have Eidim testifying on that document, you cannot collect. You cannot collect. It's not a lien. It's not a lien.
It's never a loan.
No, he admits he borrowed. He says he paid. He said he paid.
But the lien wouldn't apply until substantiated also, because otherwise nobody
understand. So that's our question. We substantiate it. Is it now Chazal say now we allow you to collect the original lien that you had? Because there's no cost factor to the consumer, the one who bought the property, because he's aware that it was liened, right? Or do we say no? Chazal originally said any loan that you borrow, any money you borrow, there's no lien, unless it's documented. So if it's documented, so in actual even a shtar milveh, a loan document, it has relevance to create a lien. So it's like a shtar kinyan, right? It seemingly should. No, when you a substantiated document, it's considered. So what happens? It's considered because that creates the lien. But Tosa says no. Tosa says the document itself you could have a going on it, right? You could have a non-Jew on it, even to substantiate document that's not a forgery. So what does that mean? It's clear that the goy is not creating the document, is not infusing the document. It's just verifying that there was a loan. But what created the obligation? Or what created the lien? What's the cause of the lien? The loan. All right. I'm just saying that's what you see from Tosas, because Tosas is equating the non-Jewish court who issues the loan document. It says even if the witnesses aren't Jews, are not Jewish, you could collect with that document. So Tosas says because that's a shtar milveh, that's a shtar raya. The document's purely for proof that a loan took place. It's not a shtar kinyan. But if you tell me the document creates the lien, then it becomes a problem. Because to a certain degree, it is a shtar. It's a shtar kinyan. That was the answer. That was the answer. We're holding it. We're in the question, right? That was the question. No, Tosa is going chas be'balma. Tosa is going in the Gemara's question.
It seems that it's all want to, let's say, uproot the derisive. They do it in a minimalist way. They don't do a blanket thing. So on this particular question, if we say that there's a lien automatically triggered by a loan, midderisive,
right,
whether it's documented or not documented, it would seem strange that the Chazal would uproot everything, even if it were documented.
It's more logical to say that they never.
That
So therefore, the document itself has no relevance to the lien.
Right.
It's only they left the lien in place as long as there's no a downside for the buyer.
So they only acted in a very
Right.
narrow
Correct.
way.
Correct.
Is that how it works?
No,
Is there an
but
argument?
that's what I'm saying. The way there's Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, and the Eben Ozel goes to explain that the argument, if the borrower admits that he borrowed, does that document have to be substantiated? Okay? Or it doesn't have to be substantiated? Even though the man said, if I said I borrowed, that means I'm telling you the document has value. It has no value. It only has value when witnesses go and they certify the document, substantiate it. Okay, simply, it's like you're saying. That would be simple, but seemingly it is an argument in the Gemara. Okay, let's get back to the Gemara here. This beautiful word, the Gemara's answer is Dina Malchus Dina, which is not simple. The Gemara says, Shtar Matana, what causes the transfer? The Gemara says Dina Malchus Dina. So we said, what is the mechanism of Dina Malchus Dina? Hefker Bezin Hefker. Okay? There's a word from the Ksav Sofer, from the Chassan Sofer. The Chassan Sofer writes, son of the Ksav Sofer, the Gemara Gitten cites two psukim for Hefker Bezin Hefker. Two separate psukim. And he goes to show that each pasuk indicates something else. To what degree is Hefker Bezin Hefker? Does Hefker Bezin mean that they have the ability just to condemn property, to classify it as ownless? Or Hefker Bezin Hefker, they were empowered by the Torah not only to condemn it, to deem it ownless, but even to transfer. Yeah. So it depends which pasuk. Because there were two incidents. They said whoever doesn't contribute his property is what is condemned. So what does condemned mean? They have the ability to deem it ownerless. And the other pasuk the Gemara cites, no, that it will belong to someone else. So that's a transfer. And it's two opinions in the Gemara which pasuk we cite as a source for Hefker Bez and Hefker. So this is the way he explains it. There's a question whether Kinj Rabbonim Hani Doraisa, whether rabbinic acquisition, it affects something on a Torah level. Okay? So if you're of the opinion, Kinj Rabbonim, let's say Chazal legislated that Mashiach is Koneh. On a Torah level, we rule like Rabbi Yochanan, movables, you can only acquire movables with what? With kesef. Kesef. Mashiach, one doesn't acquire movables if you pull it. Now, if you bring it in your domain, of course, that's your domain acquires. But let's say you would pull it. Would you take it in your hand? That's rabbinical. So after you acquire it through pulling it into pulling it from its location, or taking your hand, which is rabbinical, is that recognized by the Torah as yours? That's the question. A rabbinic kinyan, is it recognized by the Torah or not? So what's the machlokas? This is the machlokas. The chachomim, if the chachomim have the ability not only to condemn, to deem something ownless, they have the ability to transfer, so they transfer it. Not only do they deem it ownless, so now if they say, if you do the rabbinic acquisition, you use their acquisition, it's yours. How does it become yours? They transfer it into your domain. It's not a problem. But if you have the opinion, they only have the ability to condemn, to deem something ownerless, but not to transfer. So when you take it into your possession, what are you doing? You took an ownerless object. But to acquire an ownerless object, you have to make a kinyan. What's the kinyan? A kinyan which is acknowledged by the Torah. The Torah doesn't acknowledge a rabbinic kinyan. Right? We're saying that the whole base is hefker bez and hefker. But if the hefker bez and hefker is limited to deeming something ownerless, so how is it transferred into your domain? So that's the argument, whether kinj rabban and mahani doraisa or lo mahani doraisa. Wait, so that's exactly where I'm going. So if you say, the Gemara answer, see, normally dina malchus dina is not applied here. Why does a person have to keep the laws of the land? Right? You live in a country, you're bound by the laws of the land. So the Ran says you're not permitted to pass a red light. You have to pay taxes. You have to abide by the laws of the land. Why? So Ran explains in the Dorim, the reason is, if you're dealing with a monarchy, he owns the country. It's his domain. He's allowing you to come into his domain, but it's conditional. If you maintain all the prerequisites and all the what's set in place to be permitted there, then you're welcome. If not, you're not welcome. It's considered you trespassing. So paying taxes is because that was the precondition to being in the country. Otherwise you're a trespasser. Therefore, you're not permitted to break laws.
So that's a monarchy.
Wait. So at one time, everything was a monarchy. So if you have the opinion that it's only a monarchy, right? And then afterwards, now we have a question. A shtar matona. And you have non-Jewish witnesses on. How do you transfer? You still need a mechanism. You need an instrument of transfer. It doesn't work. So Dina Malchus Dina has no relevance to this context over here. Regarding why you must abide by the laws of the land, you have to pay taxes, and you can't break the laws. You have to abide. That's Dina Malchus Dina, because otherwise you have no right to be here. But here the Gemara is using Dina Malchus Dina in another context. What empowers that document to have value if the Torah doesn't recognize the document? Dina Malchus Dina, that's Hefker Bez and Hefker. But if you hold it, this is Hefker Bez and Hefker, you have to say not only do they have the ability to deem something ownerless, they have the ability even to transfer. They transfer into the domain of what? Of the receiver, of the gift. That's what I'm saying.
The monarchy, the Jewish monarchy, the king doesn't own the land. The land was given to the tribes and to individuals.
No. When I say monarchy, I'm not talking about Eretz Yisrael.
It's a different, but there's still Dina the monarchy.
No, Dina Malchus Dina. Eretz Yisrael does not have. Gemara says it does not have Dina Malchus because every Jew has a right to the land. Each Jew has a share in the land. He can't put you out of the land. The king cannot put you out of the land. Any other location in the world, the king has a right to put you out. You're welcome or you're not welcome. Because it's his domain. Eretz Yisrael, it says every Jew has Dalet Amos in Eretz Yisrael. Every Jew has, as a Jew, he has his rights to be there, and therefore you're not bound. So let's talk. Halachically speaking, a Jew lives in Israel and he evades to paying taxes. Did he break the law on the Torah level or on a rabbinic level? Didn't break the law. Did not break the law because you're not obligated. You have a right to be there. The only what binds you to the laws, because that was the prerequisite, the precondition that you're permitted to be there. I have a right to be there because it's my location. I'm permitted to be here.
So how does that work?
It's not a mitzvah or a vera, it's just reality.
So they can imprison you, they can whip you if you don't, they've got such a right? You haven't broken the law, but they can...
To maintain society, look, the Beis Din could legislate laws. They could legislate laws, right? They could put a person to death if he doesn't behave himself. That's a right they're given, that they're empowered.
So you can expropriate. What about...
You could force the situation.
What about government, eminent domain, which is in the news these days? So how does that work in Eretz Israel? I need to build a highway through your property. So how does that work?
Not simple. Not simple. Can't. It's not simple. In Eretz Yisrael, it's not simple. Who's the Hefker Bez Hefker? Hefker Bez Hefker is only where they said Hefker Bez Hefker. They never said in Eretz Yisrael Hefker Bez Hefker. Right?
Well, they have to build a highway. They decide they have to build a highway.
But who empowered them? They're not Beis Din. They're not Beis Din. If you'd have a Beis Din, you'd have a king. If you'd have a king, as the Torah says, could go through anybody's land, could take anything he wants. Even in Eretz, that's a king. But in terms of the court can't do it unless it's a Sanhedrin. If it's a Sanhedrin, they could do it.
What power? How does that work?
It's Hefker Bez Hefker. If they choose Hefker Bez Hefker, they say Hefker Bez Hefker.
In Eretz Israel.
In Eretz Yisrael, they say Hefker Bez Hefker.
So this is the family's property that was given by
And if the Beis Din decides that it's necessary for whatever reason,
they can strip that family.
right? They deem it ownerless, and it's no longer their families. Right. But today we have no Sanhedrin. So who's going to make that decision? What? It depends how far back do they revoke it. If they just deem it ownerless now, today, it's no different than a person. What about if a person deems it properly ownerless? When Yovel comes, does it come back to him? Seemingly it does come back to him. Of course, the Torah says, it's explicit, you cannot sell something for more than 49 years. So deeming it ownerless more than 49 years, that's that's something contrary to what the Torah wants. So therefore it's going to come back. You only have the ability to deem it, to forfeit your rights to a point. Beyond that point, you have no right. Therefore it will return. Okay. I'm just saying the principle of Dina Malchus Dina is unique here, the way it's being applied, because normally that's not the way it's applied. Here it's definitely Hefker Bez Hefker. Is that? Everybody holds Hefker Bez Hefker. The question is, what does Hefker Bez Hefker mean? Does it mean deeming it something ownerless, or does it mean even the ability to transfer? Right. Well, that's understood because they deemed it ownerless forever regarding that original person. But how did he become in possession? What is possession? He took the document. So what transferred it? That's our difficulty here. Yeah, you could have possession without ownership, of course.
Right, so would that be impossible? It is so that the person is now given possession of the land, but he is not an owner of the land in the classical sense.
But again, if it's ownerless, how did it become yours? Let's talk about Bikurim. Right? You have land, there's certain laws. Do those laws apply to you? If it's yours, they do apply. If they don't, right? Then not. Okay, let's go further. Reb Shimon says that even for Gitei Nosh Shchrei Avodim, if the get is issued by the court and you have non-Jew signing on the get, it's a valid get. So of course it's a what we call a real tzarachim. Omer Reb Zero, Yored Reb Shimon, I mean, if you have non-Jewish witnesses on the get, how does that validate the get? The get has to be associated with kosher witnesses. And since these witnesses have no relevance to terminating a marriage, what Tosa says, they're not b'nei edus, so how does that empower the document to terminate the marriage? On that, the Gemara says, Amr Zeri Yored Reb Shimon l'shtos Reb Lozer. Reb Shimon follows the position of Reb Lozer, de'oma edi mesira karsi. So we're speaking about when the Mishnah says, according to Reb Shimon, that if the get was issued by a non-Jewish court and you have non-Jewish witnesses, that's only edi chasima. But factually, simultaneously, you also have edi mesira. Yeah? The witnesses who actually witnessed the transfer. Rababa says that Reb Lozer concurs that if there's a defect in the get, in the document, although on a Torah level it's valid, rabbinically we invalidate the document. So if you have goyim signing on it, even though you're eating mesira, rabbinically she should not be considered divorced. On that he answers, we're speaking about names which are obvious non-Jewish names. So therefore, there's not a consideration that you can rely on these witnesses to be the Eidim Mesira. Right? The whole concern is, when you have Eidim, you may think they're Jews, and you rely on these witnesses to be the Eidim Mesira. But factually, these witnesses, since it's obvious from the names they're Goyim, there's not a consideration to ever rely on them. Therefore, if there were Eidim Mesira Jews, the Goyim will not invalidate the document. Hechidami, Shemus Mufokim. What are examples of Shemus Mufokim? Meaning obviously non-Jewish names. Omer Papa Kagon Hurmiz. Hermes, right? The Strait of Hermes. Right? By the Iranians. Okay? Hermes is a non-Jewish name. Avudino. Bar Shifsoi, Bar Kidri, Beti, Oboti, Venakim, Uno. These are obviously non-Jewish names. So Tosas over here has a number of points. It's a question of Girsa. When we say Tosas says, what's the Girsa? Is it Hurmiz or is it Hurmin? Herman, like Herman. Hurman. So Rabbeinu Tam says, Benun Goros Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam, his text reads with a nun, not Hurmiz, with a nun. Why? Although Maski Yisrael Hochi. Jews did not assume the name of Hormin. The Hurmin who shamed Soton, B'Shade. Yeah? Hurmin is a reference to Soton and to a demon. Avol Hurmiz B'Zayin, Hu L'Shevach, something which has a positive connotation. Pergdi Momentous, Mipalga Didoch Ul Du Hurmiz, Usachas Du Hurmin. He says, you're half man and you have demon. I mean, from half of you upward, you're Hurmiz, and from half downward, you're Hurmin. Rashi Goris Tarai B'Zayin, El Sheni Goris Du Hurmiz, Ve'efro Du Hurmiz. Okay. Next Tosas. Avudino. In our Gemara, the Girsa reads Avudino. Right? Avudino. Avudino, Hakol, Shem Echod, the Avu Shem Yisrael. Here, Avu is a Jewish name. The name is Avudino. So, Xpolim, Avu Afkit Kisna Beirunya. Okay. What about Shapsi? Right? Shapsi is a Jewish name. Here it's Shapsoi. There's an Aleph. Shapsoi. Garcina the Shapsi, Shem Yisrael. Who? Kamakovos says Shapsi, we see is what is a Jewish name. Shaps Avu B'Shapsoi with the Aleph, who Ruach Ro. We're speaking of an evil spirit. Kidom Perak Kolaboser. Now what about Beti? With the Aleph, without the Aleph? The way it's spelled by us, the Aleph preceded the test. So it's Boti, the pronunciation. Right? Boti. Batoi, Garcinon, the Beti Shem Yisrael. Betty is a Jewish name. Betty. Kiramidon, Bekdushin, Betty, Ramos Ruche, Lokibel, Gito, the Cherusa, Shoevid, Voyo, Marsgas Yisrael. Okay, very good. So that's the argument. According to the Tanna Kama, any Jew, non-Jew signs on the document, even when it's obvious, it's a little plug. We don't differentiate. Rabbinically, we validate the document. Reb Shimon says no. We only validate it where a mistake could be made. You can rely on the ones who write as the Edom, because it's not obvious that they're going. But if it's obvious from the names they're not Jews, that it's not a consideration, you can rely on them, then if you have Edom Masira, the get is a valid get. That's the Machlokes Reb Shimon and the Tanna Kama.
So witnesses to the transfer
Once it's transferred, we're Jewish.
were Jewish, but the document itself had
No.
non-Jewish
Which
witnesses.
prove, which tell us that the document was given by the husband. So what does that mean? It was given by the husband? It was given properly. How do we know? Maybe she had the document written herself. Who said the husband ever gave it to her? Once we know the husband gave it, so since the court is an authentic court, and they're not going to compromise their integrity, so we know this get came from the husband. But the question is, therefore what? But these witnesses aren't Jewish. The non-Jewish witness just confirmed the fact on Tzadeh that it came from the husband. Once I know it came from the husband, the presumption is, in whose presence was it given? It was given in the presence of Jewish witnesses. That's why it's valid. According to Tanna Kama, says it's true what you're saying, but the reason why we reject it rabbinically is because those witnesses may be relied upon as the Eidi Masira. Right? Maybe they were Eidi Masira, because the husband wasn't sure, he thought they were Jewish. But witnesses with this kind of name, there's no way you could think they're Jewish. That's the Machlokes Reb Shimon and the Tanna Kama. Okay?
But there is Rav Abba's understanding of Reb Shimon, right?
Okay.
And he says that...
No. This is Reb Zera speaking. This is Reb Zera. Reb Abba asked the question. Reb Abba said, Zuf Mitocho. If it's defective, we invalidate it.
You're worse off having a document than no document, according to his understanding of Rav Kalatsky.
No, you're worse having a document with witnesses than a document without witnesses.
Correct.
Documents you have to have, and you have to have Eid Masira. That's minimum.
Right.
Okay.
You know, bothered by that idea? That a document with
We had this
witnesses
before.
is worse off than no document, than just a document.
Yeah, that totally don't have dollar. Because over here, the question is, you may actually rely on them. Then it becomes a problem. If you rely on them to be Eidi Masira, they're not Jewish. They have no value. Okay? So now the Gemara has a phenomenal question. The Mishnah concludes, when does Reb Shimon say that the Ksherim, right? Reb Shimon Omer Af El Ksher, Lo Huskru Elo B'zman Shenaso B'Hedjed. When do we invalidate it? That's if it was done by an ordinary court, by Hedjud. Ordinary Goyim signed on it. But if Goyim of status signed on it, then we validate the get, as we just said. So Mara asks a question, if we're saying now, even Reb Shimon concurs with Reb Elazar that Edim Masir Karsi. And when do we say non-Jewish witnesses are valid if they sign on it? That's only if they're obviously Goyim. The names are obviously not Jewish names, right? But if they would not be, if it's not clear, then rabbinically invalidated. So Mara asks a good question. What does the Mishnah have to differentiate between ordinary people signing or people of status signing, right? Let's make a differentiation whether it was signed by people with obviously non-Jewish names or names which could be believed that they're Jewish. That's Morris' question. Let's read it inside. Ihochi. It says, Avol Shem Shein Mefokim, Milo. Reb Shimon would concur if the names are not obviously non-Jewish. Reb Shimon would agree that we will invalidate the shtar. Why? Because that's called Mezuyit Mitocho. It's considered there's a defect in the document. So if this so, the Mishnah concludes, when do we invalidate the document that was made by an ordinary court, not by a court of status, of standing? We should make the differentiation, even where it's a court of standing, we should make this differentiation. When do we accept the get to be valid according to Reb Shimon by get b'shemus mufokim, where the names are obviously non-Jewish, where there's no possible we're going to rely on them? That's where Reb Shimon says the get is a valid get. Al b'shem shein mufokim, but the names which are not obviously non-Jewish, lo. So why does the Mishnah have to differentiate between the quality of the court or the witnesses, whether they have integrity or don't have integrity? We should say that in every case, it's a court of integrity, the witnesses of integrity. Except When do we invalidate it rabbinically where there's a chance you may rely on them? That's what the Mishnah says. So Gemara says, Hochinami Komer. In essence, listen, that is what the Mishnah is saying. B'medvar mamurim. When does Reb Shimon say that what? Even if the witnesses are going by get, by giti noshim, and shechui avodim, is it valid? B'shem mufokim. And we're speaking where you had Eidim Masira. Abu Shem mufokim. But if the names are not obviously non-Jewish, nasa kimisha nasa behedjod, we see it as if it was done by a court and witnesses which had no integrity, and therefore upsul, and that's why it's possible. Instead, the differentiation is obviously non-Jewish name, not obviously. But if they're not, even if they're people of integrity, since you can rely on them, maybe you could mistakenly rely on them, therefore we invalidate it, we treat it as if it was in a court which had no integrity. Okay? That's the Mor's answer. Ibo Seimo. All we could say, when the Mishnah concludes, we're not speaking about Giti Noshim. Regarding Giti Noshim Reb Shimon, we differentiate whether Shemus Mofokim, not a Shemus Mofokim. Eba Seifu also Legiti Momon. Vochi Kamar. Lo Huskru Giti Momon de Psulim. When, because we said earlier that get is not only limited to a divorce document, any legal document, even a monetary document is called get. So when it concludes that if it's done by a hedjit, it's not valid. Hochi Kamar. Luhuskru Giti Momon de Psulim. When do we invalidate? We give no value to the document. The monetary document, only if it was done by what? By an ordinary goy, where the goy is not concerned in terms of his reputation. But if he's a non-Jew who's a person of status, where he doesn't want it to reflect badly on him, this non-Natsari he's going to tell you the truth. So there, you would rely on his signature, because he would not sign unless actually the document was given by the lender to the borrower. It's day and night. The first answer was speaking about Giti Noshim Shechrei Avodim, the Sefer. The second answer is no. We're speaking about no. Right? Factually, Reb Shimon, even Reb Shimon, he makes a differentiation. Shemus Mefokim, it's valid. Because we're not going to rely on the witnesses who signed, because they're obviously goyim. But if it's Ein Mefokim, then Reb Shimon would concur that would not be valid, because he may rely on the Eidei Chasima. No. Afi Lukshem, period.
Why would you give a wider interpretation rather than a narrow?
Reb Shimon says the Tanakam says, Giti no shechrei avodim is not valid, right? Divorce documents, writs of defense, it's not valid. Reb Shimon says, no, even those documents are kosher. Afi Luksherim. Even Giti no shechrei avodim is kosher. So the more the obvious question, how? They have no power. They don't have the power of testimony. So it says that he concurs with Rabbi Loser. Right? That was the Gemara answered. That Rabbi Loser is Eidi Masira Karsi. And what are we speaking about? Shemos Hamufokim. Obviously non-Jewish names where there's not a consideration you're going to rely on them. Therefore, rabbinically, I don't invalidate the get. But what about if it's Shemesh Eidi Mufokim? Before you go further, then what would be? We would invalidate. Even Reb Shimon would agree. So how do you read the Mishnah? Lo huskru el b'zman she'nasu behedjit. That means, seemingly, we only invalidate the get if it's done by an ordinary court or ordinary witnesses, where you can't trust them. So he's asking, what do we have to say because you can't trust them? We just finished saying that if the name is not obviously non-Jewish, we're going to rabbinically invalidate the get, even if you could trust them. That was the question of the Gemara. Okay? They're both, the Mishnah in both situations ambiguous. One is a chasuri mechsura. The first answer is chasuri mechsura. There's something lacking in the Mishnah. It wasn't fully written in its full text. It's a dochik. The Mishnah doesn't read this way. And the second thing, I'd say the ibos emo is less of a dochik. It's less of, you're not putting any words. No. when it says Gittin, it means Gite Momo. No. That's Poshut.
Right, because the mission was...
Yeah, I understand that, but Gite Momo.
Yeah, I hear. If you have two possible answers, why would you go with the why?
They're both possible. Both answers are possible. Okay, let's go further. Tanya, we learned in the Baraisa, Omer Rabbi Lozer, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Lozer says, Kach Omer Reb Shimon lechachom b'tzidon. This is what Reb Shimon said to the Chachom in Tzidon. Reb Shimon, we just finished saying, said, Gitei no shechei avodim, even if you have goyim, it's valid. Because we just said, because you have Edi Mesiro. Lo nechlo Reb Akiva chachomim, al kol ashtores, olin, ber kosher, of gochovim. Reb Akiva and Chacham don't argue regarding all documents which are issued by the non-Jewish court. Shapi shochasmen of the gochovim, ksherim. Although the signatures are goyim, it's valid. Va'afilu gitei no shechei avodim. It's valid even by a writ of divorce and emancipation. So where does Rabbi Kiva and the Chacham argue? Lo nechel el b'zman shenasa behedget. It was done by what? Ordinary people. So if it's ordinary people, we have a problem. Rabbi Kiva ma'achshei cham poslim. Chutz v'gitei no shechei avodim. Meaning that's by monetary documents. Okay. Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, Af al Elu Ksherim, V'mokshe Yisrael Chosmin. Av Mokshe Yisrael Chosmin, Lo. Here this it says, that a minhag, there were certain communities, Jews never signed on documents. A document that was issued by a Goyish court, a Jew would never sign. So then every Jew knew when you had a signature on that kind of document, it wasn't a Jew. Whether the name was obviously non-Jewish or Jewish. Because Jews did not sign. So let's say you'd have such a document, according to Rabbi Loza, Edi Mesira Karsi, in a community. What would be? Wouldn't be a problem. Because there's not even consideration anybody would ever rely on that witness. But if you have a community where Jews sometimes do sign, and it's not Shemus Mufokim, and it's not obvious that it's a non-Jew, then we're going to invalidate that document rabbinically. Because there's a chance you may rely on that witness who signed to be the Edi Mesira. But so if the Jews don't sign, in every case the document is valid, because we know factually that the aide who signed is not Jewish. So he will never be relied upon. So if you have Edi Mesira, who witnessed the transfer, it's going to be a valid get. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. This is Rav Shimon Gamliel. If Jews don't sign on Gittin, low. But if you have a community where Jews do sign, then we're not going to accept it. It is Rabbi Loza Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Loza. No, I understand. It has nothing to do with this. Nothing. I understand. Correct. But you have to have Edi Mesira. We still have to go with the position Edi Mesira Karsi. Okay. Mokshi Shishro Chosmin Lo. Somebody asks, but Mokshi Shishro Chosmin Nami Likzor. Very smart. We just finished saying, according to the Tanakama, if you have Shemus Mufokim, you have an obviously non-Jewish name, what do we say? We validate it rabbinically because we don't differentiate. So the Gemara asks a good question. So if we see that we don't differentiate whether it's obviously non-Jewish or not, because we're concerned if you rely in one situation to the other, so let's be concerned even if Jews don't sign on the documents, but there are other communities where Jews do sign on documents. People will confuse the two. And in communities where Jews do sign, they'll rely on what? On the non-Jew. And then there's a chance you may rely, we should make the same zero. So that's the most question. We'll continue tomorrow.